The centerpiece candles were flickering low on Christmas Eve when my husband leaned toward me and whispered 6 words that completely unraveled my family. "I think your brother is lying." Around us, the dining room was alive with the familiar noise of the holidays. My parents were laughing at stories they had heard 100 times, and my mother was proudly serving her famous baked pasta on the fine china she only trusted herself to wash. At the middle of it all sat my older brother, holding court like he always did. He was casually telling my father about a clinic he supposedly ran in East Africa, and my dad was hanging on every word. My brother was 7 years older than me, the undisputed golden child of our family. When he announced he was applying to medical school over a decade ago, my mother wept with joy, and my father told everyone at his office. For the last 6 years, we all believed he was traveling the globe doing high-stakes humanitarian medicine in remote villages. Our parents built their entire sense of pride around his selfless career. So when my husband made that sudden claim, I brushed it off. My husband had spent over a decade working federal fraud investigations before moving into private forensic auditing. He was not a dramatic man, and he never made baseless assumptions. When I pressed him for details later that night in our living room, he explained that the medical supply lines and operational details my brother described during dinner were completely wrong for international nonprofits. He knew because he had audited a massive relief agency years prior. He also noticed how my brother deftly dodged a simple question about his residency program. My husband gently suggested that if he was wrong, no harm was done, but if he was right, we deserved to know the truth. He proposed doing a quiet search through public records, licensing databases, and alumni rosters just to put the matter to rest. The next morning, while my parents were waiting for us to join them for Christmas breakfast, my husband sat at our kitchen table pulling up official registries. Within 20 minutes, the illusion began to crack. My brother's state medical license was listed as completely inactive, and his name was entirely missing from the active roster of the international relief organization he claimed to work for. Desperate to find a rational explanation, I remembered my brother's former medical school roommate, a man named Dustin who was now a surgeon in Ohio. My mother kept his family on her holiday card list, so I tracked down his number. I called Dustin from my car outside my parents' house while my brother was inside watching football with my father. When I brought up my brother's medical career, a long, heavy silence stretched over the line. Dustin finally confessed that my brother had dropped out during his second year of medical school under intense academic pressure and simply walked away without telling anyone. He had spent the last 12 years taking administrative and consulting jobs while letting our entire family believe he was a world-traveling doctor. Hearing the truth shattered me, but it also made me realize the massive web of deceit my brother had constructed. I stepped out into the frosty backyard where my brother was taking a break from the family chatter. Standing by the old wooden fence, I looked him in the eye and told him I had spoken to Dustin. I watched the color drain from his face as the realization hit him that his secret was out. Instead of making excuses, he broke down and admitted everything. He explained that back when he started school, he discovered our father had taken an exhausting second job at a hardware store just to help pay his tuition. When the pressure became too much and he failed out, he was too consumed by guilt to admit he had wasted our father's sacrifices. What started as a small cover-up to buy time quickly spiraled into a 12-year charade that he could never figure out how to escape. Standing in the freezing air, my initial anger melted into profound sadness for the overwhelming weight he had been carrying for over a decade. I gave him a firm ultimatum: he had to come clean to our parents the very next morning, or I would tell them myself. He swallowed his pride, looked at me with tears in his eyes, and asked if I would sit beside him when he did it. I promised him I would not walk away. The following morning, the atmosphere in my parents' kitchen was quiet as my brother sat down at the table, his hands trembling as he folded them together. He asked our parents to hear him out without interrupting, and then he confessed the entire truth. He revealed that he was never a doctor, that he had dropped out 12 years ago, and that his entire medical career was a complete fiction. My mother sat frozen in grief, weeping not out of anger, but out of heartbreak for the 12 years of isolation her son had endured. My father looked at him with heavy eyes and gently told him that he never needed a doctor for a son, he only ever needed an honest one. How far would you go to protect the people you love from a disappointing reality?